Claro. Fresh out of here. Good, sir. I tried to do something.
The pressure.
Where did you?
Pressure.
We talked about the next hour.
Now we're working on that.
Pretty sure it would have been cheaper
Just
just
go buy the
very.
SR22 brand new.
I think we know one.
It's better than stuff now.
That's your buddies?
There's a couple things left on this.
Yeah. That's what he paid.
I'll do my best.
Oh, sorry.
He paid about.
Check it.
Check it.
Are you saving your seat?
I'll give him $500.
I can snuggle up
You can find your fast. $205. A little at a time, right?
You keep up with this?
Give me a few more.
Yeah.
Have you seen any of them? I'm not better. It just got better. The earlier ones were not that good. And now we'll let give one. Yes. That's what we can do. $1 million.
He's over the
Because they
Pacific.
can. The parachute's probably.
He could. Yeah. Just saying.
Terry is on the same day. Here,
Yeah.
Finish up with that and come on.
Mhm.
4 foot surge and train, but he wants this next Saturday. We're about the dots. Oh, we're doing sample for the storage?
Yes.
Ready there? Yeah.
Yes, sir. Call this meeting to order, 1700. Please rise to the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Craig.
Present.
Mr. Mount.
Here.
Mr. Molitor.
Here.
Ms. Curry. Mr. Whitmore.
Here.
Mr. Boss.
Here.
Mr. Granger. Mr. Doherty.
Present.
And Mr. Byrd.
Here. Thank you. We do have a quorum for voting purposes. This is the approval of the agenda. Kevin, are there any additions or subtractions to the approved agenda as published?
Negative, sir. Okay.
Any board members have any issues or want to change anything, add anything to the agenda? Hearing none, can I have a motion to approve the agenda as presented? I move to approve the agenda. Motion moved by Mr. Mulder. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Voss. All in favor say aye. Opposed, same sign. Hearing none, motion passes 6-5-0. Next is the approval of the meeting minutes. First, we have the regular meeting and then the second budget meeting. Both were held on September 15th. Is there a motion to approve the meeting minutes as presented? This is moved by Mr. Voss, seconded. And is there any discussion? Anything anybody want to add or subtract from the minutes? They look pretty good. Hearing none, all in favor of the minutes being as presented, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Hearing none, motion passes 5-0. Kevin, action items.
All right, sir. Tonight we have for the board's consideration, Project in Route. Can you grab, pick her out in the hallway in there? This is approval of the 321 launch ground lease agreement for the unimproved property located along Center Lane. Cherie and company, they have a little presentation, then we can go over the groundings. Hi, Cherie. Please, you're up.
Wow, I was expecting like 4 people.
We packed it. Yeah, we lost everyone after the. Yeah.
Well, it's nice to meet everybody. This just want me
Yeah, we
to
have your.
go for it.
Yeah.
Thank you. So I'm Sheree Kiernan. We run a company called Integrated Launch Solutions in Merritt Island. Right now, we've been in business for about 8 years. Actually, we used to work out at with companies like SAIC and Boeing and SpaceX. All the launch vehicle programs you can think of is pretty much where our team members came from. And we started supporting small launchers and all this new space stuff. And we help these guys with launch licensing, range safety, all the things that we banged our heads against the wall, and learn the hard way as the big guys. So about 3 years ago, we were asked by DARPA to support what they call the DARPA Launch Challenge. And in that, they challenged these small launchers to see who could launch with 30 days notice and not know their payload. So over the course of 2 years, we found that really nobody could do it. One vehicle got to the finish line and had to scrub it at almost 53 seconds. But we had the opportunity in that process to go to 9 different launch ranges, commercial and federal, and see what the launch infrastructure was there and what their requirements were and all that good stuff. And if you go to the first slide.
There's a clicker right there.
Oh, well,
You have the power.
you've got the power, but not the eyesight. There we go. So I'll go back and introduce the team in a second. But what we found was we found a problem. We found that there's very limited and little infrastructure for these small guys. Right now, you've got the AstroTech, you got the big L3 Harris building out of California. They're oversized and overpriced. They really do not marry up with the small launchers and the small satellites. And so we looked at a lot of options, and we looked at existing infrastructure. So we scoured Cape Canaveral and Brevard County and looked for buildings, and really nothing had the ceiling height that we needed. Some of the buildings were so dated, they had sunshine coming through the rafters. If you look at the old Air Force buildings out at the Cape, they're pretty much out of code at this point, very expensive to maintain or bulldoze over. And similarly, repurposing the infrastructure was just going to be really costly. So about a year ago, we started talking with Kevin, and he showed us the piece of property that you guys have here on the south side of the airport. And we thought, wow, that's a good spot. And so we've been socializing that with launch vehicle providers and spacecraft providers and talking to them about what their needs might be for future spacecraft processing. And as you guys know, the launch rates are going up here. We're seeing a significant increase in the number of launches per month. And on those vehicles, the number of satellites is increasing as well. So last year, about 1,100 small satellites launched on the vehicles out here. 700 of them were SpaceX, the Starlink. But that's still 400 small sats that launched out of here that potentially could have used some space to process. So that's kind of where we're going. So we got some of the best people I know in the industry here. Chuck Wagner, he has been in the business for over 30 years. He helped stand up operations at SpaceX over on the Cape, helping with their PPF and clean rooms. Has worked Titan, Sea Launch, a whole bunch of programs, a plethora of knowledge. Nate Wood here, I met Nate about 10, 12 years ago. We were working NASA programs together and launch services program. Nate is now with Sierra Space, working those guys. He is a genius in telemetry and comm and software. And Shallery, right here, is our business side of the house. She takes care of contracts and legal and insurance and all that good stuff with her MBA and she's certified accountant and inspector and all that good stuff. So we really do have a great team that complements each other in different ways. And so we are off to the races in developing what we're calling the payload processing and storage facility. And it's shared infrastructure. So it's going to be a building that is intended to attract multiple people to Brevard County, or multiple people who would be flying on rockets out of Brevard County to come to use our facility to process their vehicles. And it's a shared workspace. So it's not a, built for one person, built for somebody to sit in for 20 years. They're coming for 10 days and they're getting out. So it's a transient model. It's going to have traffic. And that's the premise in the business case. So we're moving away from the traditional government contracting and pricing models and going to something much more contemporary. We want to be kind of like the WeWorks for space. If you hear General Purdy and Colonel Horn and those guys at the range and at the FAA, they talk about this airport model and how their vision is to be able to have these launch vehicles and these spacecraft operate as if they were at an airport. And they have, basically, you don't have to go through the individual certification processes and all that for each place. You can kind of just show up and go. Well, when you go to your airport, you've got a Hilton and a Marriott, and you're getting your soap, you're getting your shampoo and your towels. And so the thought is we could brand 321 launch and eventually have one at every spaceport in America, and maybe the 8 that are being built abroad. And so that's the vision for this. And there are a lot of services that can be provided, and we've done some clever things, I think, in terms of the support model. So instead of having 20 people on staff and having all that overhead burden the facility rates, we've separated our facilities and our services. This is probably much more than you guys want to know. But so we're going to have 321 launch is going to own the building, and ILS will operate and maintain the building, basically. And that will allow the customers to buy by the drink. If they just need 5 minutes of support, 5 days of support, it's on them to kind of buy it by the drink. So, so again, I think we're doing things in a contemporary and clever way to help fit in or help shape the way business is done in 3 and 5 and 10 years from now with these small launchers. So we just passed 30% design review. I apologize, these drawings are a little bit ugly. We had a graphic representation. We're waiting till we get a little bit further along in design to do another rendering. But essentially this is what the building would look like. It's got a taller high bay in the back, and office area and common use area in the front. And essentially the sides are mirrors of each other. So there's 2 what I would call sides or bays. The customers would drive up to the back side, and we're talking about box trucks. We're not talking about semis and huge caravans like we're used to seeing with SpaceX and all that. These spacecraft are the size of the table. They're not the size of the room like they fly on ULA vehicles. So basically they pull these box trucks up and we offload them into the airlock. They go into the clean room. So it's a 100,000 class clean room, which is pretty standard. And they can do their work. We have a 10K area, which is usually for sensitive optics, electronics, even pharmaceutical companies use 10K rooms. That's a level of cleanliness. And control room, garment room, all the standard stuff. Some of the things that customers have been asking for are bonded storage, just air conditioned storage. They've got a lot of stuff sitting outside that's rusting and getting torn up by sitting out in parking lots. So that's something we can help take off of them as well. And then again, these guys, when they come in, some of them need these rooms for, say, 10 days. We're not in the model. It's not a ULA model where they come in 6 months early and they're there and just camped out. These guys really do their thing, roll out, launch, the next guy comes in. The other thing we noticed with this new market is they're okay with sharing space. Some of these guys are university CubeSat projects. They're like, yeah, we don't care. As long as there's no ITAR violations, we're okay with servers. And so right now the business model is, one side's pretty much planned dedicated use, and the other side will be planned for shared use. And obviously we'll just plug and play as the customers sign up and reserve that space. And then even, just to give you some feedback on how we've incorporated feedback from the customers, we changed one of the 10K areas to a CubeSat area. And that's because, again, when you're dealing with university projects, these spacecraft may cost, $5,000, and they can't pay $10,000 a day to be in some room. So that allowed us to put them in a place where we can offer them pretty much dirt cheap rates to come in. And through that program, we think we'll be able to do university outreach programs, a lot of great stuff with that emerging market. And the second floor, so again, we've got some smaller leased areas. So again, these are like 500 square foot offices. So just a place where a lot of these companies are headquartered in California or Colorado. So it would be a place for them to have a Florida office. And again, a space for a couple desks, a couple filing cabinets, and phone and internet. So we don't expect there to be a lot of traffic. We don't expect there to be a ton of people sitting in there all the time. It will come and go as the missions come and go. And then upstairs will be some more long lease office space. We're going to move the ILS headquarters in there, along with Connecticut's headquarters and 321 Launch headquarters. Some of the flex space, we're going to have shared conference rooms, and we're going to have shared launch control centers and ops control centers. So Nate, the Wiz back here with telemetry and command and control software, is going to help to set up these computers, and ideally we'll figure out a way to request to run fiber to the Air Force Station so that we can get voice video data here. And we'll essentially be an extension of the range and of NASA. And that will provide a place for these guys to go to have that launch experience. Because right now the small satellites pretty much get kicked to the curb. They're lucky if they get a seat, like one seat in the mission director center or mission control room. So this will provide them with the space to have a team there and experience that. And we'll have a little common area upstairs, and the idea is to do some maybe launch receptions or VIP parties for them. Obviously not blowout bashes, but just a little place where they can go and call home. These are just details on clean room areas and square footage, things that customers are interested in. And then you guys are probably well aware of this. So right now, the plan that we've got, we're setting the building towards the south side of the lot with the notion that we hope to be able to expand on the lot and maybe do a classified annex or just visually clean storage space where people who don't need clean rooms can go open up their cases. And then we've talked to Kevin about tasteful outdoor storage.
Thank you.
Tasteful outdoor storage.
We spent some time on that.
So, hey, I am definitely not a Sanford and Son person. I'm not a pack rat. I do not want to see anything ugly around. So you have my word that it will have to pass my standards. But there are a lot of containers and things that these guys haul all the way from California, and sometimes it costs $5,000 to $10,000 just per trip. So it makes sense if they only have 30 days between launch windows or 60 days, just leave it there. So that's the thought, is that it would be a place for them to just save some money so they don't have to ship back and forth all the time. Schedule wise, so again, we just passed 30% design review. We're going to get to 90% design review by the end of November. And the goal would be break ground first quarter of next year. So we've been speaking with 2 different developers about that, and they are very interested, very excited. Basically what they want to see now is they want to see some signed commitments to use the facility. So we've been talking with a lot of launch vehicle folks, the Air Force, NASA, who else? Spacecraft, our primary customer, spacecraft, to start that. And we actually sent them a note that said, hey, we're officially land lease owners, hopefully, if things go well tonight. So get ready, get your pens ready, and get your checkbooks ready, because we're accepting deposits starting next week. So that's the idea, is once we get your blessing, and we know that we have kind of a legal right to the property, we'll start getting those signatures and get those developers on board and get that process started. And we've been working real closely, I think, with Kevin and Chuck's been leading the A&E and the construction integration effort. So I think that's been going well. And yeah, so the idea is to be up and running by mid 2024, which is about when that surge of vehicles is going to be starting to come through here. And we'll definitely, I think, see a surge in 2025 and 26. So I think by 2028, they are going to double the launch rate. And when we do our estimates, we're actually conservative because we've been in the business for a while. So we're not trying to get venture capital and pretend that we've got 1 million customers. We actually use the 50th percentile to do our numbers. And so I think we've been realistic and conservative on who we're bringing and how many days we think they're going to be there and what those costs are going to be. So we feel good about it. We've been thinking about it for 2-3 years now, thinking of all the ways it could go wrong. And we honestly have not gotten any negative feedback. So far, everyone loves this. They actually love the thought of being on the Titusville property because they were like, oh, we can just fly our stuff in. So I think that's another avenue of potential growth is once we create some awareness to have those guys just fly in and we'll drive a box truck off the runway and pick them up. So tons of potential, I think. All right, I've been speaking for a long time. Questions? What do you guys think?
Awesome. Any board members have any questions? First of all, thank you very much. Carol says hi.
Hi.
Very hard. I picked up on
Very
that.
small.
Sorry, this is on my call list tomorrow. Well, actually, so Carol is, one of the people when I first started thinking about going into business. I spoke to Carol. I'm like, what do you think? Is this a horrible idea? She's like, no. So she was actually very encouraging and still very supportive. So I'm very fortunate. We're all very fortunate. I think to have some fantastic connections in the industry and pretty decent reputations. I don't think we've burned too many bridges. So yeah, we've gotten real positive feedback so far.
If you don't mind.
Right?
Absolutely.
Like your funding, is it all venture funding or other funding?
No, so do not tell the All Points Logistics guys this stuff. There are potential competition.
Mute.
Or are they online?
Don't give away your secret.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, no, it's not venture capital. So far the project's been self-funded. We've funded the A&E portion of it and we'll continue that through completion of that. The remainder of it will be funded by a developer who we will potentially lease the facility from. So there could be, depending on what the deal is, an exchange of the note. But the money, the way we did the pricing structure, how do I say this? So we're trying to get away from heritage contracting where you have to bid something, wait 2 years to win it, and then you get funding because there's so much uncertainty in that, and you don't know if you're going to have 1 spacecraft or 10 spacecraft. So we've come up with a different pricing structure where we believe we will have a steady stream of revenue, whether we have 1 satellite or 100 satellites come through there. So that's kind of the novel pricing thing that I could share with you later.
What I'm trying to understand that is 321 is going to be the land leaseholder.
Right now we're the land lease holder, yes. When we sign with the developer, depending on which developer we choose, they're going to build a suit basically. So we will either hold on to the land or we'll assign the land lease to them. Yeah.
And it's in our agreement that they can sign the lease.
Sure, yeah, it'll come back to the board if there's an assignment to approve.
So we'll know who's getting signed to at the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Number of employees, how many employees did your company have now?
So we are actually quite small. We've got 5 full-time employees and about 10 consultants. And then again, through the companies that we believe that will be leasing space, we believe that, there's about 10 office spaces there. So anywhere between, 2 and 10 people coming to support missions or being there for 2 or 10 people per company. So
Will there be a mortgage on the building?
yeah. So the mortgage will be to the developer.
So the developer will fund the building and then,
We'll pay.
so I'm trying to,
Yeah.
you'll end up owning the building or will you?
So there's two developers. One will flat out own the building and one will, we've talked about potentially buying the building. We're still weighing the pros and cons of that. Basically, one developer is like, why do you want to buy that building if we'll just take, X dollars in lease from you, and not worry about it. So we're kind of trading that, but
What's the total square footage design of the building?
36, what is it? Oh, the floor.
Square footage was, was 40, but we reduced it from, so it's around 30,000.
Yeah.
That's up and down.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
both floors of offices and the high base.
Hazardous materials, what about that?
Great question. So we have decided that for the small satellite market, now about 80% of them are green propellants, electric propulsion thrusters, moving in a different direction. So not using hydrazine or toxic materials. So that is the market that we're going to address. And so we're calling ourselves a non-hazardous processing facility. We do have potential customers who need hazardous operations and fueling. We've kind of floated the idea by Kevin of if you guys do anything with that area, I don't know if it's south of the runway, there's a area, if that were ever zoned or spec'd out for hazardous ops, we would definitely be interested in considering a fueling cell or something there. Because there is a need for it, but it drives up your costs significantly. And we want to create this baseline to serve the larger market first, get cash flow going, demonstrate the model works, and then we could grow. So, but no hazardous ops right now. They'll be able to get pressurants and gases and stuff, but not hydrazine.
It's like industrial stuff, the K bottles you get from Air Product or liquid, 2200 PSI type K bottles.
I've been accused by the board of monopolizing the question grade. So
Great question.
I defer my time to Roger. Nice presentation, Roger. Thank you very much. Very exciting.
Any lead building considerations, the environmental lead, silver, bronze, gold, and also any electric car charging stations in the parking lot or any of those
We,
considerations?
since we're not being incentivized to do that, we are looking at lead options that reduce our overall maintenance costs. So for example, I will be putting in a spray and insulation foam. So this will be a very tight, well insulated building. So it'll be very electrically economical. But that's specific. I had done, it was green globes or Florida green buildings before. So I've got a little experience what actually saves you money and what you just get points for. So I'll be probably using this study, trying to, factor in stuff that makes sense.
I'd say we're open to being a test or pathfinder location if somebody wants to install something in our building and see if it works.
Any other board members have questions or comments?
I just have one. You're evidently going to have some international people coming into this facility. Are you going to vet them to make sure we don't have nefarious people coming into our area? The Chinese are famous for coming in and stealing technology.
So when we deal with spacecraft and launch vehicle, there are ITAR and export requirements. So we will definitely be monitoring that. In most cases, the standard protocol is if there's a foreign national that they have to be escorted around the facility. So we will apply a lot of the standards that we are used to and protocols that we're used to following at Kennedy Space Center and the Cape, because those are what the spacecraft are being generated for. So, and the customers have that expectation. In terms of vetting who comes, the process, the security process of getting their paperwork, so there will be a badging process, and if they've got visas and stuff, or whatever demonstrates they're a U.S. person, that's part of the inspection process by the security, facility security.
Thank you.
So I have a question for you, Kevin.
Yes, sir.
So how do we step into this? I think I didn't bring the lease with me, but I think there was a step-in process of 25%.
Correct. Yeah, so it is a long-term ground lease agreement with 321 Launch. It's 30 years with two 10-year renewals. So it's a total of 50 years. And then we negotiated a staggered land rent schedule while they go through construction. So the first 6 months, they will not pay, and then it'll be staggered up to 24 months. Or if they receive their CO beforehand, then they'll start paying full fair market value.
And we have benchmarks that they have to meet.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And they've already at risk begun design, so that shows that they're committed to the project. And it's a great project for us too, because we have nothing in the game. They're tying into roadway, they're tying into utilities and all the infrastructure. So, and we won't have to mow the 4 acres over there. So, everyone's very excited. Yes.
COI cap of 3.5%. Is that in our best interest at this time?
It really is. Working with Showery, that was kind of the only way we can get this deal done. So that's what we negotiated. So I think it's fair and reasonable.
Okay.
Yeah, it is a little bit higher than we were estimating. We had looked offsite at commercial properties for a while and estimated that cost, but we thought it was a happy medium, so to speak. And again, our goal is to be transparent in our scheduling and our pricing. And so the less our price fluctuates, the better for us and for the business model. Because we want to offer that consistency to the customers that need that.
Any other questions or comments? So I appreciate it. Then Kevin, do you want to read the motion?
Sure. We are recommending approval of the 321 Launch LLC ground lease agreement for an unapproved property located along Center Lane at the Space Coast Regional Airport.
I do have a motion to approve.
I motion to approve.
Is there a second? Second by Mr. Bloss. Is there any other discussion? Mr. Bird or Adam, do you have anything to add? Any comments, concerns, any issues that you think we need to know about this before we vote?
No, sorry.
Okay, thank you. Then I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Hearing none, the motion passes 5-0.
Right.
Thank
Very
you.
good. Congratulations.
Very much and helping to develop the spaceport.
Get to
It's
work,
been
Chuck.
great to work with. Thank you. And if you have any questions, just call or reach out. We're pretty open kimono in that sense. We're not doing anything dodgy.
We'll celebrate.
All right. Thank you all. So Brad.
Thank you.
I will.
Yeah. Sorry, folks, but I in addition to that, we'll continue and still forum for the rest of the vote.
Okay, that moves us to airport master plan studies, items I through, or items 1 through 4.
Today before you, we have our professional services agreement with Recondo and Associates for master plans at Space Coast Regional Airport, Arthur Dunn, Merritt Island, and the spaceport itself. As you know, we've received all of our grant funding from FAA, FDOT, and Space Florida. We negotiated the scope and fee with Recondo, and FAA has completed an independent fee review of said scope and fee, and they're in agreements with it. They find it in line and reasonable. Our attorney drafted the professional services agreement before you, which Recondo agreed to, and we're recommending approval. And we're very excited to get started with this project.
Okay, does anybody have any questions?
This is
Say the funding again.
For Space Coast Regional Airport, Merritt Island, and Arthur Dunn, the FAA is funding this at 90%, and then the state is funding it at 8%. So we have a 2% obligation, and then Space Florida is funding the Spaceport Master Plan at 100%. And we do have Brad Weston here. I'd like to introduce, if we have a second.
Sure.
He's been warned not to pontificate.
Yeah, absolutely. Good evening, Mr. Vice Chair. Good evening, Board. Thank you, Kevin. My name is Brad Weston. I work with Recondo and Associates. I'll be the project manager for these 3 master plans. I work out of Orlando. That's where the majority of the work will be completed. In addition to Recondo, we have a team of 5 sub-consultants to assist us with various tasks and lead certain tasks that align with their subject matter experts. As Kevin mentioned, this is an FAA FDOT process. The airport master plans in particular, they follow a process that's prescribed by FAA and FDOT. There are between 13 and 15 technical tasks to support each of those studies. I'm certainly not going to go through all of those this evening. I do want to kind of just outline one of them in particular. There is a fairly robust stakeholder engagement coordination for each of those airport master plans that's really intended to provide a mechanism to provide input and insight into a variety of stakeholders. And that really begins with kind of us engaging the board. And one of the first tasks of the master plan is to engage this group and do a visioning session. The airport master plans take approximately 16 months to complete, pending funding agency review, input, approval, those types of things. The Spaceport Master Plan, it does follow an approved scope of work. Space Florida has approved the scope of work. It is a much shorter study. It'll be completed in approximately 7 months. Thanks for the opportunity to be here this evening. We're really excited about these projects. I look forward to working with you. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
I've either got a not quite understanding it or a typo. I'll point out to you here. This is
We put one in there for you.
this is repetitive for Merritt Island and Arthur Gunn, and it's in the task 1B1. It talks about the systems that may have changed since the completion of the 2005 master plan update for both of those airports. The 2005 does apply to us, but not those 2. Is there any lumping that goes on, or is that just a wrong year that's in for Merritt Island and Seal?
That may be a wrong year. I don't remember the 3 years. Titusville is the most recent one.
Really good start, Brad.
2007.
Yeah. Titusville was 05, Merritt Island's 07, and Dunham's 02.
Sure. Yes.
So that's probably a typo and not some great.
Yeah, I'll be happy to
Grouping together.
clarify that.
There'll be meetings in the Recondo HQ.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so you'll no longer see me anymore.
Not at all, please.
Yeah, and I guess just the final thing I would note is that when we tailored and created these scopes to each of your master plans, we do understand the importance of considering this as a system-wide approach, particularly the financial feasibility portion of it.
Other questions?
Beautifully done plan. That was very nicely done, first class.
Thank you.
Like the layout, very easy to work with.
We are recommending approval.
Okay, do I have a motion?
I'll motion to approve.
Thank you, sir. Right, thank you.
This has been a dream to have real master plan.
To be honest with you, I really fought for this through the funding agencies. This is a big deal. This isn't just a update. This is a full-blown master plan. It's desperately needed for all airports.
Is there a future consideration to update it like every 5 years?
Well, that's what you're supposed to do. It's a 20-year plan that's updated every 10 years.
10 years,
Yeah.
okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Anything else? All right, all vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So approval, item C, approval of invoices.
Director Justin Hoffman, Deputy Director of Operations and Maintenance. Got a few invoices here today. The first one, Arthur Dunn Air Park. For the AWAS Design Bidding and Construction Services, request number 3 from Avcon for $3,545.85. Request number 4 from Avcon for $1,772.92. And then here, Space Coast Regional for the VAC apron design and construction. Request number 6 from Carl Collier for $181,837.13. Hangar 52 demolition. Pad number 7 for Nautilus Earth Management, $24,251.66. For the fuel farm location, pad number 6 for APCON, $11,276.87. And then for the air traffic control tower design and bidding, pad number 6, APCON, $9,986.23. And the last one for Merritt Island Airport for the AWAS replacement, request number 5 from APCON for $1,900.57.
And hangar 52 is completely done now, or how did it come out on the drainage?
It'll be done, I'll address that. Yeah, it'll be done, we're waiting on the contractor to provide 2 pieces of paper and then it's done.
But we're gonna pay him now.
We paid him, we still hold a little bit of retainer. Yeah, we haven't paid him everything. We'll hold it until he gives us.
I have no other questions. Anybody else? A motion to approve these invoices?
I'll move to approve these invoices.
Second? Second. All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, that brings us to item G. Deputy Director of Operations and Maintenance report. Bring you back, Justin.
All right, project updates. Runway 927 rehab project. Pavement's been done. We're still working through the drainage. So another proposal to the contractor to work out the drainage issues. We should actually start on that hopefully in the next month or so, and it should only take about 3 months to complete.
Did we have any issues with the hurricane? Did we have hot rain? Anything we exactly had?
We had a little bit of flooding on Texas Bravo, but at Space Coast, Merritt Island wasn't too bad, and fields were flooded, and Arthur Dunn was. Yeah, but nothing opposed. Yeah, for the 927, no, it was really pretty good. Yes. Hangar 52 demo, we're just waiting on the contractor to finish the closeout documents, and once that's done, we'll be done with that project and we can close it out with the state of Florida. The VAC ramp is paved completely. They sod it today. They're going to finish sodding tomorrow. Electrical was all in today. Tested, everything was good. The temporary striping is in place. They're going to come back in about 20 days and do the final striping. Tie downs were put in today and yesterday. They should be done by tomorrow, and that will be done hopefully by next week. The contractor will be out here.
So they did a really nice job, and that ramp is ginormous.
It's very nice, and the retention pond is beautiful back there. The sod they got, I don't know where they got it from, but it's some nice stuff.
We need to relocate that.
Maybe happen. Corporate hangar down in Merritt Island. The tenant is negotiating right now with the parent low bidder and the civil work to see if they can cut down some costs a little bit. They came in pretty high, higher than expected, so we're working through that right now. Building's still in order, January delivery. The EA, there's nothing new on the EA for Merritt Island for the T hangar project down there. That's still ongoing. Yes, sir.
Question, that appears that there's a great big berm right where that area is. Do you know what the problem is? Is that just retention? or-
Stockpile dirt.
Stockpile
Yeah,
dirt?
over the years, yeah, we keep a lot of the dirt that we have it.
Okay.
Dirt's worth money.
Just curious.
It's always a temporary stockpile here.
It's our bank account. The Nazi project down in Merritt Island, we had a little, the contractor stopped working right around the hurricane time. They're back at it again. They started dewatering again yesterday. There was a conflict with some pipe, and the county was, they're working with the county on that, but I just was giving word today we're good on that, so they're moving along. So hopefully another 3 months maybe, and we'll be done with that one. New projects, the AWAS at Arthur Dunn, bids are gonna go out, I think this week, I think sometime, whatever, next week. Yeah, same with Merritt Island. That'll go out again, out for bid next week. Tower, nothing new on that. Design is still underway. Nothing's really changed there. Fuel farm relocation, I believe actually it's 100% design now. Is that right? 90% done. We're working with the state to get funding for construction. Real quick, Hurricane Ian, we had minimal damage to the facilities. Some gutters blew off at Arthur Dunn. We had a little bit of water intrusion at the tower. Came in through the side door and got the carpet all wet, so we placed some carpet in there. There was some flooding on the perimeter roads here at Space Coast, but otherwise we did pretty good. For those of you that didn't see, we were a major site for FP&L. At one point, they told us we were going to have 700 vehicles. We got to about 500, I think. That's where we topped off. So it was a 24-hour operation here of linemen and tree trimming crews from all over the United States coming in here. We had Coast Guard coming in here several times. Buses, people everywhere. It was a busy little place. And I do have operational numbers from the 3 airports. For the month of September, Merritt Island averaged 262 operations a day. Space Coast 119, and Arthur Dunn 48 operations every day. We're well underway with hangar inspections. We kind of got slowed up by the hurricane. We're going through each hangar that we have a key for, and then we are calling those that we don't have keys or access for to get access to. But everything is going pretty good. Any questions?
Anybody have any questions for Justin?
I have a general public question. On the AWAS project, is it designed such that the pilots will not lose any reporting during the switchover?
I think it stays operational.
Yeah.
And then they construct and then they flip the switch. And that's
So the answer is yes. Thank you.
All right, that brings us to ongoing business. All right, H.
All right, Space Coast Innovation Park update. In your packets tonight, we provided their quarterly update on the project on the west side. They've completed a majority of the pre-development studies, which included for phase 1 and phase 2, included the water management district application and all the airspace submittals to the FAA. They're closing in on their site plan submittal for phase 1 to the city of Titusville, and the developers in ongoing negotiations with a potential tenant for phase 1 and possibly phase 2 at leasehold. As you know, under our agreement, we're obligated to put in the roadway on the west side. We have negotiated a scope and fee with AvCom for design and permitting, and we're going to be submitting an application for funding for design and permitting to the zone board next month for consideration. We met with Troy Post, we've met with Commissioner Pritchett. They both like the program, so I think we're going to be successful at the zone. And we actually happen to know someone that's on the board, so feel pretty good about it. We also, we've already submitted a construction application to Space Florida. Greg and I met with them a couple weeks ago.
They're very excited about the project too. They've encouraged us to update our application, request for construction funds at their January meeting. So things are going very well. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
No questions? All right.
Yeah, I don't know if, I just put this on the agenda because John was compiling stuff. Maybe we should table that until he comes back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. And that brings us to Mr. Byrd, your report.
Thank you. The only thing I've got is an update on Welsh construction. So I've proceeded as we discussed during the last time. I have had several discussions with council for Welsh construction. I think we've got an agreement. We're working on dates for resolving the entitlement issue. We discussed sort of bifurcating the attorney fee issue to address entitlement first before you get an expert and all those things. He was on board with that, so we're working on getting that set. We've also continued to negotiate potential settlement. I have a new settlement offer, which is lower than the last one, which I got last week or the week before, which is $493,107. That's the offer now from the plaintiff to settle, which includes, which I thought Kevin and I enjoyed, with our receipt of the 2 lighted X's that were an issue and then weren't an issue. It didn't end up being an issue at trial, but in any event, this is a significant movement from the plaintiff. As you'll recall, the last offer was what we had offered plus something like $180,000 in attorney's fees. Obviously, we moved off that. I've been very clear that we're not paying attorney's fees. And so this was a significant movement, which I told opposing counsel that I did appreciate. Kind of went back and forth and said, well, looking at the amount of the judgment, the interest, and the cost that you've now filed an affidavit, said here's what my costs are. I talked a little bit about that last time. You still seem to be a little bit high on that number, even if we give you all those things, and so that's where we're at. I don't know if there's any room on that. I'd like to come back with a number if that's something the board is is in a position to direct me on. Obviously, every day that goes by is a day that more work has to be done on the case, which I like to avoid if we're unsettled. One thing we can always do, of course, is Kevin and I can work on it and bring a conditional offer back to the board. Typically, that's how it's done, where we'll negotiate where we think, and I think the board provided us with some pretty strong direction, and then come back and say, look, this offer and acceptance is conditioned upon ultimate board approval. Doesn't prejudice the board from saying, no, that's too much, we don't want to do that, or yes, that's fine. And so that's what I think my recommendation is give me and Kevin some leeway to kind of go back and have these discussions, see if we can settle it. If we come back with something, you all will still get the opportunity to consider it, and I'll answer any questions. But I think that was an encouraging movement, given the amount. And I did, as I said, really that I did appreciate that.
So do you need more guidance from us, or have you guys?
No, I don't think. It's up to you. I don't think so. I thought I was pretty clear on what I got last time. But I just wanted to be clear on it coming back. So there's nothing now where it's like, okay, Burgess goes and settles the case. That's not how this works. So no, I don't feel like it, but I'm happy to take direction. I felt like we've had this discussion really twice in the last couple of meetings, and I've been very clear.
Anybody have anything? Right,
Carry on.
Sir, thank you.
thank you. All right, Deputy Director of Finance and Administration report.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Christina Kennard, Deputy Director of Finance and Administration. First off, we have the check register. Does anyone have any questions on the check register? On the financial software update of QuickBooks, we did go live starting October 1st. So we are processing our accounts payable and accounts receivable starting this fiscal year through QuickBooks. We're in the process of learning. All of our staff and everyone has been very pleased with the way that it's going and the way that we are able to get it to work for us. And it's already been recognized that it will save a lot.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No small
Thank
accomplishment.
you.
Great.
Thank you. We're getting there.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the update on that. And then I did put in this so that we can work on year-end information to finalize a few things. I put on a request for to write off bad debts. I don't know if you guys had a chance to look at that document, but I don't know if you have specific questions. I can pull it up. The amount that we're requesting to write off for bad debt is $105,512.74. That consists of 8 inactive accounts, 2 of which the hangar is locked or currently leased and the tenant cannot be contacted or found. 1 of which the board agreed to terminate their lease. It was part of this building. And therefore, we would like to write that amount off. There was a lease that was never acted upon, which is the Delta Hotel Aviation Group, which carries the majority of the sum of this request to write off the bad debt. We're requesting that because nothing has occurred to move forward with that. So it's just staying on the books and we're accruing more and more bad debt. So we would like to request that to be written on.
Sorry, could you address that a little bit more?
The Delta Hotel Aviation, the lease never,
I think it was a ground lease, a corporate hangar ground lease that never kind of got off the ground. And they should have just canceled the agreement, should have just came back to the board, but it never did. So it keeps accruing.
So do we need to cancel the lease?
I think at this point, we probably,
It's been done.
yeah, it's been done.
It's been done. It's an accrual. So it was a lease agreement, and it's a long story, but they had asked for time to begin construction. Initially, it was a year, didn't begin construction, came back to the board, said, we're ready to go, try start us again. And the board was a little bit of a debate. And they said, okay, we'll give you 6 months, get started. Nothing. So after that, we followed an action to evict, terminate the lease. We did that. That part's been done. It was just the continued accrual because under the lease, you're still entitled to accrue monthly rent. You don't get actually on free card just because you don't have possession of the property anymore. So the rent's been accruing and the interest has been accruing ever since then.
And there's no chance of us.
That was what we were exploring before we got to this point. Probably not. The actual tenant was an LLC that was likely a shallow startup to try to get something going. And
Those things happen.
yeah, I mean, we didn't lose anything on it, right?
No, it's just,
Sure. So, and we still have tried to know Christie's tried to make some efforts to try to contact the principal who still lives around in various facets, not this entity, to say, hey, is there any way you can cut a deal? We'll take some interest off. And there's just been no response. So.
And I don't disagree with it, except that we don't want to get a reputation of allowing this kind of thing to happen. Because then why not, wouldn't somebody come up and tie up all of our land?
Sure.
And never pay and then walk away and there's precedent.
Understand.
Yes, precedent, that's good word.
Good question. You said something about hangar not being able to get into a hangar in their rears.
I said we
I think
have,
it's storage.
right, we do have some storage units that the tenants moved out and actually we can't find them. We can't contact them. We don't have any information. So those are smaller amounts.
Fire sale.
Some of
She
them are
says
empty.
they moved out.
Right. There's a couple that are empty. We do have a few at airport storage though, that the tenants are deceased and their belongings are in there. And I'm working on the specifics with Mr. Bird on what we can do with those belongings because it's the law specific to property that are deceased.
So you need a motion then to write off the bad debts. I have a motion.
Also, I think we just need to clean the books. And get them out.
Is that Brad, your second?
Yes, also.
Any other discussion?
I was gonna ask Calvin to answer it, let me ask.
Adam, it doesn't affect obviously, you looked at it, it doesn't affect us in any way to write this off. And we still have the same legal rights with that unit that we had before.
Correct. If we wanted to pursue any of these, pursuing the breaches of contract or breaches of lease agreement, we don't lose that. It's simply an accounting function for that. Yeah, good question. Yes, that's correct.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. All right, next on the agenda are the financial statements for August of 2022. Within the financial statements, I'll go over the income statement at least for our expenses for the 11 months ending August 31st, 2022. Our operating revenue between all three airports is 2.8 million. Operating expenses are equal to 2.5 million with depreciation of 1.6. So we currently have a loss with depreciation of 1.3. That's kind of our reserve that we hold, so that we have money to replace buildings and structures and so on and so forth on the airport. Therefore, we have capital contributions of 4.7 and a change in net position of 3.1. So our net position is currently 63.9 million.
So did you say we actually have a cash depreciation account holding cash? Or is it?
Well, it doesn't hold cash.
It's a book.
Right, it's a book entry. Mhm.
Because what that means is we're living on our depreciation. Right? Somehow we should rectify that a little bit at least, because we don't have any cash for depreciation. What we have is accounting.
Right. Are there any further questions?
Just out of curiosity, have we gone through any of our $100,000 contingency?
I'm sorry, what was your
The
question?
contingency in the budget is $100,000. Just curious as to whether we've used any of that. Okay.
So then, are you gonna brief us on the other issue?
Yes, sir. If you guys noticed in your email yesterday, we had an alert from Wells Fargo. They gave me a call and wanted me to look at our account because someone had actually gone into a branch. We believe it's possibly in the Miami area. And when they were requested, they tried to cash a check, and it was a check that was made to look like our checks. And when they requested an ID, the person walked out. So immediately they alerted the team that works with our account, and they gave me a call. So I looked at our account, and we've had several checks that have been written off of our account. The sum right now, because yesterday, even though they had put a fraud flag on our account, a few more went through, and it's up to 208,000, a little over 208,000. So I filed a police report with Titusville Police Department. I have called our insurance to check on our policies, but unfortunately, we do not have a policy that will cover that type of fraud. However, we are currently putting in an application to see what the premium would be. We think that would possibly be around $800 or $900 for a year to have that type of protection. The other thing that we've done is we are sending an affidavit. They asked me to sign an affidavit with all the checks that have been written, and then we send it off and it goes to the fraud department. And they'll work on recovering.
Did they get a good picture of this guy at the bank? I mean,
There are several, if I look at the listing, there's several names listed. I mean, there's over 100 checks. So there's several names that are repeated. I really don't know, but evidently it was multiple branches, but they don't really provide a whole lot of detail on that because they didn't know at that point.
So Wells Fargo asked for an ID, the guy refused, walked out, and that put this in play. Apparently there were checks cashed that perhaps there was no request for an ID. Does that mean that Wells Fargo is culpable for any of this problem to any degree? Is it their fault that the checks got cashed? Without proper ID?
I do
I
not-
don't know how they can't be
Right.
culpable. We have certified signers on one and the board is the other. So, you know,
Full pursuit, right?
oh yeah,
Okay.
I'm just absolutely disgusted by
I am
it.
too. It's crazy out there.
I had one other question. When we were changing the things and straightening up the banks and stuff, I thought we were gonna move everything out of Wells Fargo. Not that this would have changed anything, it could have happened anywhere.
Right. We are in the process of doing that. We were originally, when I came on board and all this was occurring with paying off the former loan balance and everything, we were scheduled, I met with the bankers and we were scheduled to possibly have it in place in March. But I guess because of the merger with Truist, you know, it was SunTrust and now it's Truist. It's taken them some time to be able to address new clients coming on board. So I reached out to them again and it is in process. We were hoping to have it by October 1st, so we could just start even, you know, with our new accounting software using the new bank, but unfortunately it's not completed yet.
Do you know the time frame for them cashing these over 100 checks? You know how long that's been going on? When the first ones?
The first one was on October 7th. And then
They did 100 checks in
All
The
between
past couple of
17
days.
and
Wow.
$1,800.
the majority. was-
That's a heck of an operation, you see. If they-
Inside job.
You know, it's funny you say that, because Christie just coincidentally ordered some new checks and then all of a sudden this happens. Like, they can't help but to think those two have got to be related.
They don't have a spotless reputation.
There's that too.
So, Adam, how, just, I think we need to know, what's our chances of getting money back? Do you have any idea?
Getting money back from people that took it is near zero. But we're going through right now, I mean, it will depend in part on the processes that were in place that sound like they probably weren't followed. And of course, we don't know those things until we start to dig in. So right now, I talked to Kevin about this yesterday. We're doing everything that we should be doing right now. We've made an insurance claim. They've said no, but you make the claim. You know, we've certainly reported with Wells Fargo. We've cooperated with them. We filed a police report. It's still machinating within Wells Fargo. We're still hoping they'll do the right thing. This to me screams of security problems internal within Wells Fargo. So the first thing I always ask, and I've dealt with this in the past for clients, what did we do wrong, arguably or otherwise? I don't see where we could have done anything differently to avoid this. If it turns out we don't know this yet, that the checks that we received, the requests and the checks that came through, which I know came through at least in some part on unsecured email from Wells Fargo. They sent it to us on unsecured email. You know,
No, it's not from Wells Fargo. I
Well-
need to correct that. It's from a check.
The check company.
well, do we order those through Wells Fargo or is that from someone else? Well, either way, that's not a problem on our side. So we'll have to figure out who the culprit is, but there seems to be some irregularities here. You know, that seems to be an exorbitant number of checks within a very short period of time. That's a red flag. I had the same question Brad did. Why was the first Wells Fargo employee asking for an ID on the 107th check? What about the first check, which would have prevented all this from happening? Why were checks negotiated after the fraud flag was placed on the account? Those are irregularities. And so the more of those that there are, particularly where there's no fault on our part, and I still haven't seen any, the stronger the argument becomes to go to Wells Fargo, because not only, you know, hopefully do they want to take care of their customers, but this doesn't look good from an optics perspective. And we're talking about it right now in a public meeting. You know, and so we're going to pursue this on all fronts and try to get
Could,
back on.
could you keep that on the agenda, keep us posted? on status?
Any chance of FDIC involvement or a similar federal organization?
Possibly, and if they won't do what they're supposed to do, we can involve them. Typically, claims to the FDIC come through the bank itself. This strikes me as something the bank, particularly one as large as Wells Fargo, either has some sort of self-insurance for or has actual insurance for. I mean, banks get defrauded all the time. Money comes out of the account. They want to be able to protect their customers as well. You know, the kind of ironic question I've been asking, isn't that what you put your money in a bank for? It's why you don't bury it in a coffee can in your backyard, right? I mean, you're not getting anything on interest, so what's the point? It's to be able to protect your funds. And if they're not doing that on what amounts to a fairly simple, really historic fraud, which is big checks, then, you know, what else are they missing? Is that where, you know, is it security? So I'm not accusing anybody of anything. We're definitely way out on the front of this. These are just kind of things that are swirling here that will crystallize as it goes forward.
I've had employees go to the bank we wrote the check on, and they don't have an account there. I mean, it just boggles my mind how this happened.
And so if I could make a comment,
Right?
I had this happen to me about 15 years ago. Fortunately, when they tried to cash the check, I didn't have any money in the bank. And the check bounced.
We've all been there. I go back to my
From that point
annual
on,
talk.
any operating account that is out there in the public, I always keep it below $10,000. But you guys have a little bit bigger checks than I do put in, but then somebody has to monitor it all the time. But I think we can't wait for the bank
Right.
to take care of us. We got to take care of ourselves. And so I think any check thing that's out there in the public, checks and anything, $10,000. And if we write a check to somebody for 161,000, then we put 161,000 in the day before we know it's going to clear. And then that keeps us, reduces our risk, and we can't wait for the bank to do something.
Right. That is our main practice. We're only funding it as to the checks that we've written.
So how much did we have in this bank? Thank you, Colin.
I think as of when the last time we wrote the checks and we funded it, it was up to about 300, but that's because of our projects and some of the funding that we're having to do with the projects.
Can we do all electronic payment on it or not? Does it have to be by check?
Well, that will be in the works as well. When we move to the new bank, we would prefer to move to that type of method rather than checks.
Can that be hacked and?
I'm sure.
That should stop. In my mind, should never have cashed those checks because,
Not one single check should have been.
I mean, one of them, but then we got processes like, oh, wait a minute.
And I agree with you 100%. But I'm saying, my point is.
No, I do the same
If
thing.
we wait
with
for,
payroll.
right, if we wait for the bank to do their job in today's society, it's just. My opinion.
Well, we'll stay on top of it and keep you all posted. What's going on.
Let's get our money back.
I want to catch this.
Bonus.
Thank you.
All right, that brings us to authority members. Roger?
I don't have anything today.
I've been to two really cool events since last meeting. I went to a Blue Origin event in Zoom, and I went to a Virgin Galactic down at FIT. And I got to tell you, we are in a really interesting place. Things are getting ready to go crazy. And for anybody that's here and interested in space, we got a ringside seat for some spectacular things that are going to be going on. So,
A couple small things. Walking around talking to people. Somebody gave me a suggestion today. The guys that drive the lawnmowers around, he said, if they had a fire extinguisher on board, it might help prevent a major fire if they were first joining on the spot. Airplane start, cauliflower fire or something, but if they had one close,
Yeah, all of our trucks have fire extinguishers and first aid kits, so we can look into the
the
mowers.
lawnmower, he's driving a little bit of road. He says, everybody come on, it's just a thought.
Sure.
I thought it was a good one. I don't know if, I was going to ask, John, if he had talked to the mayor about our friends with the tent over here. I don't know if that's happened or what's,
They have their permits.
they got the
It's
permits?
done. Yeah.
Okay, so they're moving ahead.
Mhm.
Oh, thank you.
It was
All
a-
right.
it's a glorious day.
Yeah. And could talk about perhaps a customs office looking down the road.
Mhm.
Any thoughts on that?
We haven't really done a lot with it, to be honest. We haven't had a lot going on, but I know we've talked to Brad, our new master plan guy. We're going to be considering that for Space Coast and looking into it, and see, what the latest and greatest on that is.
It might be just a good feather in our hat to have a customs office right here in the airport. Okay, that's all right. Thank you.
Good idea, I like that.
Yeah.
I've had a couple of issues over at Merritt Island, going through the gate and dealing with a couple of people over there. Just a couple. Yeah, I'm over here. But I mentioned it to Justin, and he's gonna take care of trying to put up some education, but these people, you know, they came through the gate, you know, behind me and, you know, okay, if you're there, you know, but they didn't even stick around to let the gate close. It's just like,
Yeah.
you know, just take off. So Justin's gonna try to beef that up a little bit. And I mean, these people,
Was it Tom? Did he do?
I give you the names. I told Justin who they are.
Okay,
I personally chased somebody down. Turned out he was a student, going to be flying out here, and he followed me and he buzzed on down through. So I followed him down. I said,
No.
You can't do that. There's a big sign there. He says you can't do that.
One gate closes in 7 seconds, the other one closes in 26 seconds. So that's the one that people just take off and say, I'm not waiting. So
Stays open.
Well, in my case, one was in one gate, one was the other, and I followed the one guy, you know, and said, you know, what are you doing? You know, I try to be courteous to you and pull forward to let you in, but you're supposed to stay there. And he said, who are you? And, you know, I mean, this was all arrogantly, of course.
The rules don't apply.
Yeah.
There you go.
Like they're too good.
Kids,
we have-
like the kids, I can't, who are you, sir?
Well, I know who they are. I have them there.
Okay.
Of course, they got,
Be honest.
Wasn't shocked.
but
I know there's a number of airboats that go to Merritt Island all the time, and they're just hanging around on the parking lot waiting for somebody to open up the gate and go in there and get the 100 lead at the fuel pump. It happens all the time.
really.
And I know they don't have any badges.
Well, but the problem is people are letting them in. Now, these guys had hangars, they own airplanes, because I know, you know, I figured out who they were. And that wasn't the issue. They weren't, you know, but it just that they didn't do what's required. And from what I was talking to, one of the guys I was talking to said that Merritt Island was part of what caused all these airports to have to get as secure as they are. From 9/11, I guess, is what I was told.
International students.
Yeah. So, I mean, all these things that we're supposed to be doing are mandated by the FAA. It's not us
Well,
doing this.
and my comment would be to, when I come around at night sometimes, you'd be surprised how many people ride bikes around there because they're going through
The personnel gate.
Just through the personnel gate, and they just ride the bikes around and see what's open and see what's, you know, they're hanging around. And I don't know what we can do about that because I don't even know there's any signs up the gates.
Well, I mean, this airport, I think all the personnel gates are locked. But-
Right.
But down at Merritt Island,
All open.
yeah, so, I mean, that would involve locking all of the gates to create, I guess, more workload for the FBOs or whatever, right? They have to let their people in.
We'll check it
I
out.
don't know if that's, but I thought they all had to be locked, but it really.
Never locked.
Let's see, I guess that's it. So now, any public comment? Do we? Yes. Okay, is there anybody online that wanted to make a comment? State your name for the record.
Don White, EA 724 down in Merritt Island. We are going to have a fairly busy fourth quarter here at Merritt Island. First of all, we have a Young Eagle event, which is next Saturday, the 29th. I opened up the registrations a week ago. Within 5 days, we had 100 kids signed up. No phones at all. We have maximum number of pilots that we're allowed to use at the airport. And then unfortunately, we have to limit our activities to such a small number, but we're ready to go. The next thing is with a EA 724 is going to be a poker run. Hopefully this year it's going to be much better one because we had very poor weather last year. So we've invited a lot of other people around the area that are pilots, not just Merritt Island. We're going to have a poker run. Basically, it's going to be Arthur Dunn, Tyco, Space Coast, Melbourne, and Valkyria. Also Valkyria, on the same day, is going to have a big Young Eagle event down there. So I've been working with them on that.
What day is that?
On November 12th. And the last thing we're going to do this year is our 29th annual Toys for Tots Drive on December 10th. And it's going to be at the Sammy Hayner. We've been working with the Sammy Hayner people very good over the last few years. They're very supportive of our programs and, from Young Eagles and for Toys for Tots. So I just want to let you know, and I want to put this on the website that if you have any questions, let me know. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Okay. Is any other public comment? All right, well, I guess we'll adjourn the meeting.
Thank you.